just being really curious about who our clients and customers are and where they are right now and how we should communicate to them.
Welcome to Avidly Talks, a mostly marketing, sales and HubSpot focused podcast. Each week we're diving into topics that help you do better in your work, and we try to make you smile along the way. This week I'm joined by my colleague Elias Holm. He's a marketing strategist here at Avidly and easily, hands down, one of the most engaged, enthusiastic, passionate learners I've ever had the pleasure of working with. We have an internal Slack channel. Elias, if anybody's got some new tools, new AI software or ideas or looking for volunteers, you're all over it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Paul.
How's your week going?
Actually, really good Monday and a good start today as well. I got the whole morning without any meetings, and that's really uncommon for me. I guess you can relate. So I got to do really focused deep work, and that was good because there was a lot of things on my plate that had to be done. And
what kind of things?
Yeah, now I'm doing fundamental research on new clients. We have a lot of new clients coming in, and from that we are creating the whole strategy for their inbound marketing efforts and content strategy and so on. So there's a lot of research, and then you make the main strategy, and from there you do more specific strategy efforts. So really interesting to get to know these new clients.
I think that researching bit, I can see why you're enjoying that deep focus on the research stage of working with a client. I know that seems to be something that's second nature, not even second nature, it's just the way you go about things. So let me dive in. I asked you to come on because, like I say, you're a big, obviously a keen learner. You enjoy finding out new information. The learning channels on Slack, be them about HubSpot, about marketing generally, the book club, AI, whatever it is, you're all over it. How do you find the time to always keep learning and keep working?
Yeah, I work from this office a lot. So this is my home office. So I don't have a lot of colleagues most of the days. And our Slack channels is like the coffee machine for me. So I go there to just have a conversation and dig into things that I think is interesting. I think the most important thing for me to find the time to be a constant learner is to just really curious, because then you can't help yourself. So if you find a way to be curious about the world and being motivated to learn new things, then you will find the time somehow. I'm also fortunate to have an employer in Avidly which really supports to have a constant personal development, because Avidly can see that it's highly valuable to come in with all of this knowledge that you always need to build up on, because things are happening in such a rapid pace now. It feels like everyone is saying that, but it's really, really true.
This summer in particular feels.
Yeah.
We're just coming out of summer, but this summer in 2024, have you felt that change? And you talked about inbound marketing strategies a moment ago. It feels like the game has changed this summer. Do you agree?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. I think probably it did change earlier, but it was just more obvious now. Also now, of course, with generative AI, the game has changed a lot, and we have to find our place and what we do and how we contribute. And it's also changed in the market for us as consultants, because a lot of companies that we work with are more mature now in how they do content marketing and inbound marketing, and on the sales side as well. So they need other kinds of services from us as an agency.
Going back to your tip about staying curious, whenever anybody mentions how things have changed this summer, I always get sucked into it. But you said something really interesting about staying curious. Have you always been that way? And do you take that habit everywhere? Are you curious about, I don't know, music or other things outside of work?
probably not everywhere, but in a lot of fields, yes. And it is something that makes my life more interesting, but it's also difficult sometimes because you sometimes you just have to do things without digging too deep. But for everything in life that you encounter, you can always go into the rabbit hole and just dig deeper and deeper. I just realized, I think fairly early on in my life, I realized that as long as I'm interested and motivated in something, it's easy to learn about the subject. But if I'm not motivated, it's really tough. I can see that with my kids as well. Like my son, he doesn't care to learn like left and right, but he can learn about elliptical solar systems or whatever, as long as he's motivated. I can highly relate to that.
Yeah, nice. Marketing obviously motivates you.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely. And I don't think it's like actually marketing. It probably communication between people and people not. And my biggest interest, I think, in my work is how people don't understand each other and how we can try to make them understand each other at least a little bit. So that is like my main objective in my work.
explain that in a marketing
Yeah,
context.
a lot of times I think we generally think that people understand each other and that we speak the same language and that words means the same thing to everyone and that we have the same interest and same motivators. And it's really easy for any company to think from inside out and you think about what you are producing and the kind of service that you deliver and that everyone will understand where you are, sort of like this the said model that you have been thinking about it for a really long time and then you're trying to communicate it and you think that everyone is starting at the same page. A lot of what you do as a strategist, trying to see how you can communicate to the customers where they are at the moment. Just being really curious about who our clients and customers are and where they are right now and how we should communicate to them is a driving factor, but also a big part of what I do in my job.
How do you
Yeah.
go about that? What is it sort of? Are you interviewing customers? Are you doing desk research? What kind of things are you doing to get up to speed and understand where the customer's head is at?
Don't have a lot of time. It's more focus on interviewing our customer and doing desk research and then confirm with our customer and we take it from there. If you have more time, we will do more interviews with their clients and do more industry research, reading up on any public papers and so on. And then we can do other more extensive research to reach out to a broader audience to see what the drivers are for this audience and so on. So it depends how much we can do. It's always interesting, of course, when you can go more in depth and really trying to find what drives them in the end. And that is also interesting because as consumers, we usually don't know what the true motivations are. We think that we are in the market to buy new shoes, but we are actually in the market to be liked by our peers or whatever. So
Yeah,
trying to get one step beyond and see the true motivations where I come in and deliver a real value. And now that we are in the era of AI, we have to be even more human and trying to do the things that the AI can't do. And then we use the AI to do all the things that AI is better to do.
we'll come back to how you stay on top of AI probably in a couple of minutes. But thinking about your customers that you work with, you speak to a lot of different businesses. Um, what are the things that in-house marketing teams sort of commonly overlook when it comes to doing what you just described in terms of understanding what their customers actually trying to achieve?
I think that the most common thing that they overlook is to understand the consumer's goals. You tend to look at your product and see just the features of your product. If you're a little bit more mature, you will look at the benefits of your product, the way that your features will benefit the customers in their everyday life. Looking at the goal, what are they trying to attain? Say, for instance, you have a car. You don't have a car because you want to have a high-speed vehicle. You have a car because you want to be able to transport yourself from A to Z. But actually, you maybe don't even just want to travel. What you actually want to do is be able to meet up with your friends or whatever. Understanding that you can deliver content in a totally different way. So I think that is the most overlooked thing. And it's easy to go there because we're in an era of performance marketing where you measure each ad by itself. So it's difficult sometimes to take one step out of that and look at the holistic view and see what are we actually solving for our customers.
Have you got any sort of tips to help people, in-house teams, sort of take it to that next level of, it's like the jobs to be done theory, isn't it? That it
Yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
you're describing. How can you, as an in-house marketer or salesperson or business leader, get to that second level? Not just the features of your product, not just the benefits. What's that second level? How do you unlock it? How do you find it out?
That is actually one way you can use the AI. You can use a regular chatbot like ChatGPT and set it up in a way that it will challenge you in your thoughts. Also ask it to act as one of your consumers. And then you have a conversation and trying to just challenge yourself, coming one step further down. What is it actually solving for? The most important thing, of course, a lot of companies say that we're consumer centric, we're customer centric. How often do you actually talk with your customers? I think CEOs should just go out and sit with their customers. I know HubSpot is doing this. They invite customers to all of the bigger managers meeting. They have a customer that is challenging them during the manager meetings. More companies should be truly customer centric, and it will hurt a little bit, but that's the whole point.
That's where the nuggets come from as well, though, isn't it? I'm interested. What's your background from before this? Are you from like a content? Is it paid advertising? Are you from a creative or marketing strategy? What's your route into where you are now?
I started wider in communication. I actually studied rhetoric a long time ago. I worked in communication in non-profit sector as my first job after the rhetoric studies, and drifted in towards digital marketing, but more from the perspective of communication planning. Who are we addressing and what are the problems that we are trying to solve for them and so on. And then I focus more on strategic marketing. I've also worked quite a lot operational in HubSpot, but I always try to think about what is this actually solving for. So if I set up a nurturing workflow in HubSpot, I was also thinking about why are we doing this and what does it actually mean and how is it associated to our content strategy and so on. The tools is interesting, but to me, they are always just a way to get to the strategy that we set up in the first place.
When you were talking then, it made me think around the tools that are always getting released with HubSpot, but also in our field anyway, in sort of marketing and technology space. Things you've talked about things moving quickly. HubSpot as a tool moves quickly. There were 200 updates released last month at Inbound. How do you give some advice? How do you stay on top of these things? I know you're naturally curious, but describe your habits for absorbing these things. So you've got your colleagues around you on Slack. Where else do you go and learn? Is it podcasts, YouTube, books? What are your learning habits that people can take from? Because I can't put across enough how much you're clearly learning and absorbing things all the time. So tell us, share how you do it. What are your tips?
Maybe you can share with me, Paul, if you come up with a solution on how to stay up to date with everything happening with HubSpot. There's just so much going on. You and me are really fortunate to work in Avidly and have all these colleagues that are constantly up to date with what's happening in this space. So I get a lot of insights from all of our colleagues, of course.
That's a good point, actually. When you say that, I do think about it. Often you're asking to be shown something. I think that's a
Yeah,
great way for people to. More people should do that.
yeah. There's always someone else who has thought about it more than you
Yeah,
have. And
absolutely.
that's also the way you go about using just searching the internet for the answer or talking to a chatbot or whatever. But what I do to stay up to date is quite deliberate with my time. I think that comes down to having two kids and a full-time job, and then you have to be quite deliberate on your time. Uh, so it may seem like I'm in our Slack channels a lot, but I actually have quite condensed time when I'm looking in all of these communication channels, my email and Slack channels and team channels or whatever. So I set defined times. I usually look at our Slack channels in the morning and at lunch, and then I check my emails in the morning, and then the rest of the time I'm trying to get my work done. The other thing that I do is I'm trying to find spaces where it's not taking any time from anything else to do this learning. So, for instance, I love podcasts because I can listen to podcasts when I'm doing something else. So, doing the laundry or I'm working out or whatever, I can listen to a podcast, and it's quite easy for me, at least in my schedule, to fit that into my daily routines. If I would need to half an hour each day to be really focused on the learning that I do, it would probably be quite difficult to get it in there. The last thing is that I think it was my dad who taught me that you should read each night because it's such a good way to fall asleep. So I'm a constant reader, but I read like, I don't know, 2 to 4 pages each evening. It's not a lot, but over the years, it gets quite a lot. And you can start thinking about something, and then you wake up and like, oh, that was interesting. And it's that some input that you have constantly. So I think just find times during the day where it's easy to get it in. You can. I don't know if you have read Atomic Habits.
I've read the
So
Blinkist version.
yeah,
Do
yeah,
you know the?
good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I find that's
Yeah.
my way of getting more reading
Yeah,
in.
that's the right way, Paul. But it talks about like stacking your habits to something else. So if you want to learn to have better balance, like when you're brushing your teeth, practice to
Hmm.
stand on one leg. Whenever you take the laundry, listen to podcasts or whatever. So something that you do during the day, and you just connect the new habit to that thing that you're already doing. But mostly, I think I would come back to stay curious, because if you are truly curious, you will find the time somehow.
That's brilliant. And then that is so important because everything's moving so quickly, and it. I think people feel like they haven't got the time, but if you have that curious mindset, manage your time, allocate time to learning as well. Like, be purposeful with it is what I'm taking away from what you're describing. So, like, it's when you said you go into communication mode with your colleagues, asking questions, looking at tools in your newsletters that are in your email inbox, then switch to work. I think you've really given me a good tip there because what I fall into the trap of is trying to do both, trying to dip in and out of both, and you end up doing a bit of neither.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to take that tip away. Thank you very much, Elias. The way to stay on top of all of this is to organise your time and be purposeful. And I love that underlying be curious. It's so important. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a comment and a 5-star review. Plus hit the follow button not to miss future episodes. Thank you very much, Elias. I'll let you get back to your new client and doing what you do best, researching.
Thanks, Paul. Take care.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode? Then be sure to leave us a comment, a review, and hit that follow button. See you next episode.